Bam. Well, good evening, everyone. Mike Wiley. I hope, sincerely hope, that you're healthy and surviving the lockdown and a bit of the isolation. Maybe you're with family members and stuff. I want to talk a little bit today about this thing called COVID-19 data.us. Mostly just because why we would do it, why do it. What else do you do in a lockdown? You kind of focus on some other things, or maybe learn some stuff, spend time with the kids, or spend time looking at a lot of data. And I think that's what we've been doing. Probably right around January, I kind of documented the history here. Right around January 23rd, when China locked down, I think that's the exact date. When China locked down 50 million people because of a new novel coronavirus, cold flu virus. Um, that was alarming, actually, to me. And I had some folks in the remote teams at JP Morgan. They were talking about it, and that discussion came up and made me double click, if you will, and look a little bit deeper. And I called some ex Googlers and Google friends, and we looked at some data and we said, yeah, this is pretty serious. And then had some other ex-military contacts and talked to them, and won't go into what they said, but there was some movement, let's call it that. So I wanted to find more information, and I wanted to click around and see what was going on, but I found it extremely hard to do. And that is when I created basically a world news aggregation site. So COVID-19data.com, I'll click on that. Um, Basically, I don't trust a single news agency. That's just me. I mean, I don't trust a single data source. Maybe that's true, but it was more of there's many data sources around the world that are not being accounted for, and funneling all that news into through one thing called the television is painful for me. And I needed to have a little bit more information, a little bit more of what's going on around the world and how is this impacting. And specifically, that was China and China's, the news challenges as relates to that. So I built this site called COVID-19.com, COVID-19data.com, which is the opinionation is really around categorizing news and putting it in a particular region or subregion. So you can click through this. It's fairly well indexed as well. If you want to click on a search, you can. Let's just see, New York. We'll let that come up. The the news aggregation was just really a solve for me in a way that I could go to one spot to see everywhere in the world. I want to know what was going on in Vietnam, what was going on in Taiwan, what was going on in Singapore, what's going on in the Philippines, what's going on in Korea, and then what's happening in the UK. And so I didn't want to go to BBC News and then go to back to ABC or ABSN News and Asia. So or Sky News and so on. So aggregate it, put it here. There's about 2,800 what do you call it? 2,800 articles that are sitting here in the aggregation site. We get about 75, 80,000 unique IPs a month. We have a bunch of returning visitors as well, and we're pushing about 5 to 6 million page views a month on this. So long story short, it's just an aggregation site, news aggregation site. I do have some people that are actually vetting some of this news. Some of the stuff that showed up is kind of iffy, and so we early on we figured out don't put any iffy things out there, or you know people won't be happy. Though it wasn't predominantly that, it was 0.001% of something is iffy. But anyway, they're checking things, they're making sure it gets categorized the right way, and so on. So I'm pretty appreciative of those folks, and we're getting a lot of good traction here. That said, this site was for me, and then it moved to the public, and then reality is I appreciate it now more because there's a historical record of all that news and all the things that had transpired and kind of the movement between, you know, people really, really thought this was nothing but a flu and nothing but a thing. Maybe they still do today, and I'm not here to judge that. I just more of, you got opinions, you've got facts, you've got, different views of the world, and all of that's kind of aggregated here was really my point. Let's go back to GitHub. Then it became kind of really obvious in March that um, this was heading to the U.S. I think the first Washington cases showed up, and super sad in the nursing homes, and just again, just some of the stories are just heart wrenching. New York started becoming predominant. California, where I am, became more and more a topic on the news, and so you kind of get the sentiment of news and how things are moving, not opinions per se, but just data. What's going on? Where? What? Why? And that kind of thing. So I built this U.S. centric news site called NinjaVirus.com, and I'm pretty sure the person who probably coined it somewhere is going to hear this video, and so thank you for giving me that idea. Um, I guess you got to find some levity in this. I have a whole bunch of other COVID domain names. I could have just put it out there, in .us. But um, you know, Ninja virus. I mean, it's this kind of ninja virus that shows up and it's silent. It's honestly deadly. Multiple weapons. I mean, I guess you want to, kind of make a little bit of light of it, but um, you know, anyway, we needed a U.S. centric focus, so I built this site called NinjaVirus.com. Here it's pulling about 70. I think I've got up to 70 news feeds now, 70 different news feeds around the nation, the US. And so to allow me to do one of these things, like click on a map, go to a state, click on the state news. So I'm interested in, let's just say Texas. I have kids there. So, but they're in Dallas. Here's Austin, Houston news. And so this is very Houston and Austin and Dallas focused. And you go to California and you'd get the same thing, California specific news. And that only matters because if you're watching, the CNN and the Foxes or the MSNBCs or CNBCs, whatever it is you're watching, it's a just a snippet of time. And I think I needed to give it a little bit more attention than a snippet, right? In my opinion. So U.S. national news is again just feed through this. Here's some NPR. Here's an NPR feed if you want. If you're into NPR, and I could put more feeds in here. I just don't do it at this moment. Uh, anyway, uh, some interesting charts, if you will. That's a little bit delayed. That's not updated. So 6 went up, doesn't the other. We're not going to do it with it today. So back to the project. So why COVID-19 data.us? Well, let me give you the short version. Data is not really aggregated in such a way that allows for better analysis. It's curated. It's fed in a different way in various different sites and places, and so it's not normalized in a way that makes it easy for people to communicate and consume and be of self-service to the world. You only know what you know. Sometimes it's only through Facebook, and so or some other social media tool. I think the goal here was to disseminate, not hold data hostage, and just deliver it in a way to the rest of the world that allows for easy consumption and accuracy, if you will, at some point. Second thing is there is a need for a historical record beyond what is presented by news agencies and what is curated by other entities today. I think we'll get into this challenge later, 6 months, a year, maybe 2 down the road, and our frame of reference will change, and we won't be able to recall all of the things that have happened and transpired. Um, just by human nature, just things have moved on or transitioned. So where do you go today? I think is the question I pose to myself. Where do you go today to find the 2006 or 3 SARS or MERS epidemic data? And it's not very many places. CDC has data and they've crunched some things, but it's not there to consume at scale or to build other things around it. I'm sure the medical community has a lot more. The Lancet and medical journal sites, stuff like that, do have quite a bit of information, but it takes a lot to find. So I wanted to find out, what about the 1918, flu? How do I deal with this from a data perspective? So that needs to be a historical record there. It needs to be easier, and that's really what I'm talking about. Is I needed to find information fairly quickly, believe that it's somewhat accurate, with some margin of error, and that's fine. And because it can't be perfect every day, and so yeah, we needed it to be easier. So what do? We built this thing called inside something like Google, where we take a root domain like covid19data.us, and I put different services around that domain C names, like an API, graphs, news, web services, dev, etc. With an Nginx load balancer in front, and expose it to the world. Let everybody come get it. Why not? It's a bit of a cost, but it's an acceptable cost in some ways. I mean, if you feel like you want to buy me a cup of coffee later in life, feel free. So that's what we're doing. Grabbing data, putting it somewhere, making it available, universally accessible and consumable. There's my ex-Google talking to me. Okay. All right. So we've got kind of through that. Let's talk about the reality of it. Like, so who cares? Why do we do that? Everybody else is doing that. Isn't there data already there? Blah, blah, blah. And I've heard all those stories too. And I've actually challenged myself in that process. Why do something that somebody already has done very well, or did this thing? And actually they haven't in some ways. Let's go back to GitHub. The source of truth is, if I type in COVID here, happens to be the CDC, of course. Let me go back to the root of this. The CDC has all of that data. And in particular, I hope that everyone has seen, and just hats off, incredible, my goodness, the Johns Hopkins people have just done an amazing job just getting this data out from almost day one. Like, it was literally before China locked it down. I remember just going back to reading something, or at least pulling down a spreadsheet and finding it that they had already started this, like around January 20th or something to that effect. We can check if you want. But they put this data, they amass this data in from the CDC and from different things. Imagine China doesn't have the CDC, or the CDC that they have is different than ours, right? And European CDC, the ECDC, I believe is what they call it. And anyway, right, the Center for Disease Control is funded by the United States of America, and other people are funded by different countries, etc. So how do you get all these people talking and aligned? And Johns Hopkins seemed to just be figuring it out, being I think a neutral party in that process. They were grabbing other data and putting it in. Ultimately, they had to do some iterations of that data. So you can imagine you're a doctor and you're a nurse in a hospital in Wuhan, China, and you're literally, hundreds of patients, if not thousands, in front of you. You didn't stop probably to get on your smartphone or your tablet and update the spreadsheet. That probably didn't happen. I'm just hypothesizing. So even if the numbers are so that means, number one, the data, is not going to be 100% accurate. That's number one. Number two, the margin of error could vary. And the reason why it could vary is because technology. Did you count that person over the other person? Just the ability to even process information at the time that it's happening, given you're inundated by a bunch of people in front of you. I mean, how many of us had to manage 1,000 anything could do it really well? And that's maybe what nurses and doctors were doing at that particular time. I mean, what, 100 persons per nurse, or what? We're talking, you get it, right? I think so. So give I think there's a lot of people are super critical sometimes around the data, and I go, yeah, but given the situation, it's amazing that we have data or some form of data. You don't have to trust all of it, but at least it's there. So anyway, that we have the data, and this is what Johns Hopkins is putting it here. Um, if you look at this time series data, I can show you right here. This is how what happens is that these guys push it up, and yeah, 122 right there. That's the date that they have, and you can see from all the way until now. So literally, we are just 3 months into this, and it's just insane, right? Yeah, and here we go, right here. Here's Hubei, and it probably was before this on 122 that date. Okay, so we grabbed this data from Johns Hopkins, who puts it into GitHub. We do a pull every night, and we insert this data into a time series data store, in particularly an open source package called Prometheus. And so I hopefully you're in the tech stack world, you're probably caught up there. All right. Going back, is there other sources of data? Yes. Are they putting it all together into a single view? Trying. And some are doing it better than others. And so we are trusting, because these guys have done it consistently over and over again, that their data is accurate. Now, I will tell you, you're going to see data like this is not real-time data. Again, I can't stress enough. I don't know of any medical facility actually that even in the U.S. that just hold on. We just checked in a patient and they're on a ventilator, and we should update CDC. I think that happens. I don't. But the state of that patient and the accuracy of that data will vary. It's going to vary by some percentage, some margin. I don't know, and we don't know what that is. It's more than likely whatever numbers we're seeing today. I'm going to hypothesize with you that it's 1 point something x or 2x more than what it is in front of us. Just because what didn't get reported and the accuracy of the data is currently there. And they're not overselling this, right? They're not overstating this. Like, oh, we had 300 million, that's not happening. They're actually probably understating in a way, just to be somewhat conservative, as you would if you're in the medical profession reporting numbers to a center of disease control in order to be somewhat accurate, so conditions can be conditions can be realized and understood, because you're seeking funding and other support and other things. You get it, right? You're not going to go ask for more money without having some data, or other things without having the data. So I would argue that it's probably more conservative data that comes out than it is, accurate. Maybe, I guess, is the right way to say it. So there's a margin of error that it must exist. On we go. So we pull the data and we put it into a time series data store called Prometheus. Why would we do that? Well, we wanted to get some functions that are out of that Prometheus provides, in particularly to just crunch the data pretty fast and make it easy for people to go do the same. I just pulled all the stats from the deaths around the world. And maybe I should just do recovered, right? And then that way we'll just talk about that more of a calmer way. So here, if I wanted to look at recovered, I get all of the actual who recovered where, when, in basically the lat and long and the country they recovered in. If I wanted just a summation of that recovered thing, I could just give me all the people who's recovered since we've been tracking this data. So there's 149,000 people that have recovered. If I wanted to do that by particularly country, which we just kind of showed just a minute ago, but this is the sum of everything. So now you can do this by country and see in Canada in particular, there's been this, or in Switzerland, it's been that. And that's interesting to do, very fast, very quick, as you can see, and without running a spreadsheet in Tableau or spending, thousands, if not millions of dollars, building that Power BI tool that you need to run a simple summation of data. Anyway, you can also do a couple of other things here. Let me show you some deaths. Let's just do deaths again. Let's do recovered, sorry. Let's just now bake it out by country. Let's just say China. Let's do that. and I haven't run this before. So now we've got 75,000 by China, and we could then, let's just do US. And since I know that US has different counties and states, let's just organize it by state. How about that? And then now we get it by state. And that's just, since there's a lot of zeros, let's just say greater than 0. And then we get by state county. Let's do that. Let's see what happens here. Hold on. That's not equal to 0. Yeah, that's, so we can filter that out later, but the value of is, in all these are the counties. It's a lot of zeros, people, right? That's horrible. Right here we got 1. That's the state recovered. I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe are we just reporting these as covered? We'll look at the data, but it looks like they're just reporting it as a single recovered number, not by any particular state. Interesting. So I don't know why they would report that. I think they would report it by state, but maybe they're just doing it by country. Okay, so let's just do this. Let's go to confirm. Let's show you that same query right here. This is why we wanted to do what I do. So how many people are confirmed. Let's just do this by country. And we'll go back to the US since we're here, most of us, and are talking at this hour. And we'll do this by state again, and we'll get this by state. And there you go. And you know what? Let's do the top states, top 10 states that have confirmed cases. And there we go. We got New York, Jersey, California, Michigan, Mass, Illinois, Washington, blah, blah, blah. So you can see, real easy to parse through some of this data and to get the information out and make it consumable. What makes it even better is that we're not holding it hostage. We're not charging you for it. We're not making you go through any crazy hoops to figure out how to get that data. You can go get it yourself if you're so inclined. You don't have to use this interface or this UI. You can actually use an API. Use the API. You can run the same query. Let's do this equals sum again of deaths. Sorry, hold on, confirmed. Okay, and there's the JSON value output of that, which was 720,000. That's the time we pulled this data. Let's do this by country again. Let's see if we can get a little bit more interesting stuff. So country, right there in the command, right there in the URL in the browser thing, you can do all of this, and there you go. By country, super simple. And you don't want to use that. That's okay. We can use these fancy tools like Postman. We can do the same thing. And you can get a JSON output. If you're so inclined to do it from there, you can hit it from anywhere in the world. And that's super simple. Similar to the COVID tracking folks, they've already kind of sorted this out, but this is in PROM with different functions of PROM. So you can do average over time and this kind of stuff, right? It sees average over time. And you have to know a little bit of the query language. Confirm, right? And I think let's just put time as 1 day. I don't for now, just to prove a point. And then there you go. It'll come back and spit out all the results. Okay, so the results come in the epoch time stuff. You can filter that out, or you can change that too if you so inclined to do so. Okay, so we can do that through a query within the browser itself and generate a JSON object, or we can go directly to something like Postman to do that, or we can do it even, let's do it in some code here. Like here's an example PROM. Let's do this. Let me just clear this thing out. Hold on, this is not going to go anywhere. Oh, that's clear. All right, hopefully you can see the screen a little bit here. Okay, we just got a minimalist amount of code, import requests, systems, and JSON. This is for me later. So here's a response request, bring in a system argument, and then spit out some JSON. Format the JSON, and then print the JSON. That's kind of where we're at. All right, so if, let's see, Python example prom, and I said call that API, so http api.covid 19data.us, and then put in some, in quotes, put in some, what do you call it, query. So some confirmed, right? And then we'll click that, and then bam, we have 720,000 right there in that. If you don't like the fancy JSON, I totally get it. Some people do, some people don't. I'm not really, I don't know. Let's comment that out. Let's comment this out. And let's just, whatever, print. Like if you want to be really crazy about it, like really simple. Print response. Response.json, right? Okay. Let's just save it. Go for the juice, man. Did I do something? You know what? You could just say print. I don't know why it was yelling at me. I didn't do it. Huh? I don't know why it was yelling at me. Do you know why it was yelling at me? Oh, you know what I didn't do? I'm stupid. That's why I'm stupid. Okay, I'm stupid. I'm just kind of stupid. Okay. I was stupid for everybody watching me. All right, so then it spits it out in this, but let's get a different, all right, some confirmed. Let's do something where you can see a little bit more bigger data set by country, right? Let's see if that works. Yeah, there we go. So that it'll spit out like that. Good job, right? So anyway, let's just ditch this, uncomment all of this stuff again because I like it in the better JSON object, a better JSON, prettier JSON, if you will. And just make sure it works again, and there it is. Okay, so that's something in using a Python script if you want to do that. All right, hopefully everybody gets that. It was interesting for you. And let's just say, go back to the main thing. Okay, now, since we have all this data, we can also graph it as well. So there's a open source tool called Grafana, which is basically a visualization tool for Mini to use. And here's the beauty of that is it already kind of has these plugins and these capabilities of parsing JSON objects and putting them into a visualization, construct and allowing you to see data in a certain way. So if you have time series data, or if you have some data, and you want to graph it, Grafana is a way to kind of see those things. And mostly used in the tech space for metrics and that kind of graphing, single stats and gauges and all this stuff. So we've built the same thing here. Let me just bag out all this. So if you go to graphs. Leave this graphs.covid19data.us, you immediately get, let's open up the window here so you can get a good screenshot on it. You immediately get all of that confirmed and recovered and that's like in this view. And I think this is super important for everyone to understand. Those, that gray map with the little blue or black dots or whatever, and it doesn't represent what's going on across the U.S. What you see here is what 121,000 looks like. But when you just read the number, when I read the number on the TV or a screen anywhere, I don't really cannot articulate what 121,000 looks like. And this is 121,000. It's not all in New York. It's not all in Washington. It's not all in California. It's not just in Illinois. It's everywhere. I think that is the message of this particular screen right here, and allows it to, we can convey that. So there's hotspots, of course, as you can see. There's red dots and bigger red dots and stuff like that. But it's if it's not in your community, it will be. If it is in your community, then I think you need to take the appropriate precautions and stuff. And yeah, I think this is super relevant to see. It will update every night, every day. Now the beauty of this, why do we do this? Remember, I said make it easy, make it simple for everyone else to go do it and stuff, was to really let you do it. If you're a technologist, if you want to put this on your website, if you want to put it somewhere in your on a mobile app or whatever it is you want to do, feel free. I don't. I'm here to help you actually get more awareness and more visibility, and achieve the things that you want to achieve. Right? There's a bunch of smart people out in the world that can really do good by data and good with data. Not a big fan if you're monetizing this data, like some I know, but monetizing the actual data. So that's kind of weird. But anyway, please don't. And there's some rules behind that, but this data is, I think, relevant to everyone. So and then you can drill down into various different communities and stuff like that, and you can see things. Okay, up at the top. I've put a couple of others. These are just default dashboards. Look, if I go to the state and county one, I particularly like this one the best. It's something actually personal to me because I have a daughter who's going to college in Arkansas. It's really hard for me to find out what's going on in Arkansas. I could call her. She knows some, but what's going on right now immediately in Arkansas is relevant to me, and I'm concerned. And particularly sometimes even in the county, right? So let's go to California. I have kids there too, and of course, going to school that is now on Zoom. Um, if I go to Alameda County, let's just go to Santa Clara. I think that's where a lot of those things are. So here you get the state confirmed number, the state deaths, the county confirmed, the county deaths, the state confirmed fatality rate, and the case fatality rate, and the county case fatality rate. You get the top reporting counties right down here: Los Angeles, Santa Clara, San Diego, blah blah. You could go back to Arkansas, and so I think this is what I mean by just getting actually data, in front of us, so we can see how do we react, how do we respond, what should we do. Sometimes there's these unassigned data sets because how data got entered. We're pulling the data from Johns Hopkins. We're not manipulating the data. We're not changing the data. We're just doing functions across the data. So sometimes data is inaccurate. We'll try to help figure it out as we go along. California, again, some margin of error. You're always going to run into it. Let's just go to Washington, okay? And that's tough going on up there. There's guys who are the first in King County. Ugh, tough. Ugh, my heart breaks every time I see some of these things. Oh, it's really like just tough, right? You get into this data, and sometimes it just the case fatality rate, county fatality rate is tough. Okay, so we do a little bit of trending here. It's just a linear trend. I don't think it's completely 1,000% accurate, but if you wanted to do some predictions on counties and what happens over maybe the next 7 days and stuff like that, we automatically do that because we can do it on the data. Super simple to do. Let's go back to U.S. data metrics. This is the total U.S. There's other dashboards up here, and again, you can build these dashboards. You have access to the data starting today. It's available to you in a typical Grafana way. You don't have to write any software. You might have to learn a little bit of query language, but it's pretty cut and dry. And sometimes people want to see data just in front of them the way they want to see it, and they don't want to go to many news sites and other places. They just want to pull it in themselves, right? And I think that's true. Make it easy for them to do that. Here's a confirmed number. Cases, the daily increase, the 3-day increase. Wow. That's when you get some interesting, the doubling factor shows up here, right? And that's a little less than double, but so it's a 16% change on a day and a 66% on a 3-day, and that's a rolling 3-day. So we're 20% of the world's cases. Wow. We're not 20% of the world's population. That's true. That's an interesting number to find. So what percentage by world population are we as relates? I don't know. We could probably do that math, assuming you get the population numbers up to speed. Death numbers, tough again, 421. Wow. it's disheartening. Huh. 21% change, 3 days. Wow. Man, well, I don't want to look at it, honestly. Okay. So, which states are populating more data and what's going on there? You can click through these things. I'm working through some of this. This is a percentage of uh, case fatality rate and death rate, right? By state, by county. This one I needed this data is wrong. I gotta figure out the table's wrong. The data's not wrong. These are just stair-stepping graphs that go up, and by the time we pull the data, it tells you kind of like this was a big jump here, and then and how far that jump is, and it's a little bit easier than seeing something logarithmic because that's just flattening out. It's a little bit smoother. You'll get a little bit more granularity and accuracy on some of the data that we're putting here. You can see this is New York, right? If you just go back through this thing, click, look at this, like jump, and this is the death increase, by the way. Ugh, that's horrible. Ugh, I don't want to look at it. All right, the predictions, some more down there, right? Anyway, all these graphs. So let's play a quick game. I know we're 36 minutes in. Wow, I talk a lot. All right, let's just say that you came to this site and you wanted to take this particular map, and there's a button. If you click on the top there, it says share. A little bit slow. That's me. It's not you. All right, share. And let's embed it. Let's take this particular iframe here. Let's rock this out. All right, let's get down to the nitty gritty. Go back over to our, let's do this. Let's do a basic HTML file, blah, blah, blah. Let's let's do this. Let's take all of this out. I don't know what those are. Anyway, if we look at this thing right now, let's just save this. I'll show you this we'll just post it on the web server right here on my local machine. Whatever graphs go here, some single stat. Okay, let's head back to our fancy dancy. Let's just put that iframe embedded thing there. Let's just save that. Boom. Let's open with the live server, and there you have it. There's the graph. Not to my liking, of course. So let's change that width because that was the default. Let's just go 600 by 600. I don't know what that's going to look like. Height. Sure. 600 by 600. Let's see what happens. That should have updated already. Oh, that's all right. It's a little bit better. All right. So there's a 600 by 600, graph of that. You can click in it. By the way, you can put this on any web server you want. As a matter of fact, I have an example. If you go to that dev COVID-19data.us, by the way, that's the default page. We'll change it as soon as I can. Public, and if I pull up a use case, that's not the one I wanted to pull up. Let's pull up this one. There's that same map on a, publicly hosted domain, embedded as an iframe off of the graphs.coviddata.us. And then there's the total cases. So anyway, this is super simple for web developers or anybody else that want to pull in the data. They can. I'm not making it hard for them. We'll update the GitHub project as we go along to give you many examples. I'm excited to hear if you want to contribute. The more hands on this, the better, right? I mean, just giving people access to data and making it easy and consumable. Becoming a historical record, those things are relevant during this really tough time. Just tough time. If you want to contribute, there's a way. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. If you want to contribute, there's another way. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. Send me an email. If you just have intermediate cycles. If you're really good at just like I'm really good at Node and or Python or Go, and I can scrape the API and I can put an example like a minimalist kind of thing. Feel free. If you want to build a web page out of all the graphs and things, feel free. If you want to build another Grafana dashboard, feel free. If you want to help me fix the security and the and the things, because I know as soon as based upon the other two websites, as soon as I publish this out, there's a whole bunch of people coming to hack, and I've got nothing out there to hack. It's just the data that's already public anyway. But anyway, I don't want to be down. I want to be able to provide a service that's always sustainable, highly available. Thank you for giving me the time. I hope you stay healthy. I hope you stay safe. Hope you can take some time to reflect on the data. Um, that's what 121,000 looks like. Everyone, look, that's insane. It's 121,000 across our country. Yeah, it's not just New York, right? Not just Washington. So, it's in your community. Stay safe. Thanks for the time, and